Hi everybody, this is Anne. One of the most popular videos that Jim and I have made since we started our channel is called 5 Easy Folded Clay Projects. The most popular of the projects we featured was a certain folded bowl. I've received quite a few requests to share that template. And now that I'm working with Helen Maynard at Little Chip Tools, we found a way to make that template available with an additional 2 new templates. They're being offered in either PDF form or in Helen's famous cookie cutter forms. In this video, I'll feature the new cutters and show you my best tips and techniques to make several different variations of bowls with them. Here are the cutters that Little Chip Tools offers. The link is below in the description section. If you'd like PDF paper versions of these, you can get them from my Little Street Pottery Etsy shop. We also have a link to that as well. One thing that I really like about the cutters is that it makes an easy job of cutting out the tight corners, which can be tricky, especially if you have shaky hands. You get a perfect cut fast. I'm going to be using a styrofoam half sphere to support my bowl as it dries. This one has a circle cut from the bottom, which will add a bit of texture to the outside of the bowl. I cut a square from this one to echo the template shape. That should be fun to play with. You can use any bowl that you have around the house for support, like this salad bowl. The first thing I did was roll out a 1/4-inch slab big enough for the squared template. I placed the slab on a piece of plastic wrap for easy removal from the table and ribbed it smooth on the front and back. I thought it'd be fun to put a little texture on the inside of the bowl. I had this rolling pin engraved for me by Sharon Hoppy Designs. I rolled it over the entire slab. I placed the cutter on the clay and simply pushed it down firmly. When I removed it, I was left with the perfect cutout. So much easier and accurate than cutting it out by hand. My next step was to peel up both the corners of one of the template edges. The curled edges will automatically fold to the inside when placed in the styrofoam. I repeated this step on the opposite 2 edges. Next, I picked up the plastic wrap and placed it into the styrofoam mold. My curled edges are behaving exactly as I had planned. I gently press the clay to the bottom and snugly against the sides. Using a pencil, I traced where the corner edge hit against the adjacent edge so I'll know where to score. I peeled the clay back and scored the area underneath on both sides. I slipped it and connected the edges together. I repeated this step for all 4 corners. I then used a pointed tool in the crevice to make sure each seam was sealed tightly. I rounded the top edge and corners with my damp fingers to eliminate sharp edges. I wanted to capture the imprint from the bottom of the mold onto my bowl, so I made sure to press the clay down against that circular cutout. I let the clay dry to leather hard inside the mold. Now here's a bowl that I made earlier where I used a garlic press to extrude little coils and shape into cool designs around the rim. On the outside, you can see where the mold pressed a natural line against the rim, and on the very bottom is the imprint from the circular cutout. I used several different Amico Celadon glazes on the rim and my white liner glaze on the rest of the bowl. I fired it to cone 5 with an 8-minute hold. I like using the white glaze on the inside as it'll look good with anything that's displayed in it. Here's another variation of that same template. I used the mold with the square cut out and turned it into a colander with handles for fruit washing. I added a tall foot so the water could empty out and a little shallow container for any drips. On the sides, you can see the indentations impressed from the square mold. I glazed the inside and outside with Amico Celadon Sky and the rim with my white liner glaze. I fired this to cone 5 with an 8-minute hold. I want to demonstrate one more idea with this template that I'm calling a Clover Bowl. Again, I cut out the slab on a piece of plastic wrap and removed the excess clay. This time, I peeled up all 8 edges of my clay. I lifted the plastic and carefully set it down into the mold so that all the edges curled inward. I lined up the edges so they were straight and even. I repeated this step for each of the 4 corners. I then peeled the sides apart, scored and slipped them, and reattached them, connecting them tightly together. I worked the clay seam together along the front and top edges with my fingers. Once I get adjacent corners connected, I like to curl the back edge between them down over the edge of the styrofoam. It makes for a nice organic feel. Now here's a Clover Bowl that I made earlier. When the bowl was leather hard, I placed coils along the outer corners, then replaced the bowl back in the mold to dry to bone dry. I love that unique shape, and again you can see the indentations from the circular cutout from the mold. I used a seafoam glaze for the rim of the bowl and my white liner glaze on the inside and outside. Again, the white of the bowl is inviting to anything you want to display in it. One more idea. For those of you who like a much bigger bowl, it's easy to lengthen the template's angled edges to increase the template size and create a monster bowl like this. Let's try the rectangle folded bowl design. Again, I start like the others with a 1/4-inch ribbed slab on a piece of plastic wrap, and I cut out the template. I peeled up the first side and used a wet finger against the straight edge between the 2 angles. I then curled the side edges inward a bit. I repeated this with all 4 sides. I picked up the first 2 edges and crossed them over, making sure just a little bit of the rabbit ear was showing from the bottom slab. I marked where the clay overlapped. I scored and slipped just like before. I attached the edges tightly. I continued this for all 4 edges. I gently picked up the bowl and made sure the bottom connection point was also nice and tight. I didn't have a ready-made form to support the sides of this shape, so I used flat test tiles against the walls, propped up with underglaze bottles until the piece was bone dry. I also decided to create feet for the bottom of the bowl. An easy way to do this is to roll out a thick coil. I flattened out the coil a bit with my fingers. I cut the coil into 2 1-inch sections, then cut each of those sections diagonally. When the bowl is leather hard, you can turn it over and position each foot at each corner. Score, slip, and attach. The angled feet go well with the angled side edges. Now here's the sample that I made using the small rectangular cutter. I added little half circles along each side and feet along the bottom. I also made a larger bowl with the larger rectangle cutter. Again, I just attached the angled feet at the bottom corners for this elegant look. I used underglazes for the flower designs and bright red underglaze on the solid red parts. I glazed over the red with Amico Weeping Plum Celadon. I glazed around the imagery and the rest of the bowl with my white liner glaze. Here's the larger rectangle bowl with a similar pattern, but I used Amico blue instead of the weeping plum. These cutters really make the job of cutting templates out fast, easy, and accurate. You might want to consider giving them a try. Thanks to the newest members of our Little Street Pottery Research Facility team. If you'd like to join the team and earn a title, click on the Super Thanks button or the Buy Me a Coffee link. In any case, we invite you to subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time in the studio.